Hello everyone and welcome to State of the Realm, your weekly Final Fantasy XIV podcast. This week, we're all waiting on FanFest. We're 2 weeks away from it as of the airing of this show, and as such, we still got a few shows to fill in that time. This week, we're going to be looking at a raid retrospective, judging the Shadowbringers raids, how they varied from raids in the past, and just having a grand old time. I'm one of your hosts, Mr. Happy. Of course, joining me is Sly. How you doing, Sly? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. It's the weekend.
It's the weekend, and it's the weekend after we got Monster Hunter Update 2.0, too, so you know it's going to be a busy weekend. I already got that 100% Affinity Ninja Sword. I'm working on that build with some Master Touch and some
That is stupid. That is, the minute I saw that is stupid. That is fucking ridiculous.
I love it.
Holy shit.
Can't wait with all these crit boost
Holy
gems.
Shit.
Yeah, buddy. All right. Well, we can talk about
Jesus.
that. We can talk about that a little later. And we're bringing on a new guest this week. Normally we do raid shows. We have kind of static people who come on very frequently. We're going to bring in someone who I've had the pleasure of raiding with a lot this expansion. You all know him for sure, probably more than you know us, and it would be Woops. How you doing, Woops?
Hi.
Welcome, Whoops.
Hi.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Glad to be here with my expertise in years and years of Final Fantasy experience.
He's being sarcastic, but you do have a lot of experience, especially with this most
recent
recent
have a lot of experience,
expansion.
yes.
I'm a Shadowbringers baby.
Yeah, Shadowbringers. I mean, that's really the core we're going to be looking at, because you're starting to get we'll talk about it a little bit during the show after, like the sponsor read. You're getting a real retrospective with more emphasis
I am
on retro.
currently learning via pain.
Yeah, and that's definitely, we're going to have to talk about that, because that'll definitely play into comparing some of the older raid tiers that are around there. Before we get started, though, quick sponsor shout out. No, nothing out of the usual today. Steel Series sponsor the show. Giveaways every month. 12% discount code. Don't even need the 12 in the discount code anymore. Just the Mr. Happy will do just fine. Support the sponsors. Support the show. And speaking of sponsors, we have our Patreon subs who I painstakingly render 6 hours of State of the Realm every week now to make sure those names are at the top right. So if it breaks, they won't be there. Yeah, I just... listen, when the new PC gets here, it'll be here before FanFest. Hopefully I don't have that issue anymore, and I can move on, and I don't need to do this part of the intro anymore. But thank you to them. Thank you to all those names that'll be scrolling in the top right, and we'll do another shout-out for you later in the show. All right, rating. Kind of a depressing topic if you think about it right now.
Is it?
It depends on what your goals are, but yeah.
See, Sly, you've avoided the depression that is both knowing that Ultimate won't be here for a while, and also knowing what it's like right at, because like there's all sorts of depression that comes around Ultimate that now doesn't get to be experienced. You know, like right after you beat it, you're just like, okay, I don't know what to do anymore. And then when it's not there, you also don't know what to do. So it's just like you just need it there all the time once you start doing it. So it's kind of depressing to talk about a little bit.
Man, y'all need help. God.
That is the perfect encapsulation.
Y'all sound like Tyrone Biggums. Y'all got any of that raid? Got any of that Ultimate? Y'all got them Knights of the Round yet?
Yeah, I kind of struggle to understand why so many people are depressed, but that's probably just because I haven't done everything yet, or haven't done all the stuff existing right now 100 times over. So being
only
fresh
the
helps.
most recent stuff.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's again, you both are probably far better off than old people like me.
Happy's like, I've been doing this way too long.
He's got Vietnam flashbacks and everything. I mean, I've done old raids too.
Fight every month.
I remember spending 2 months on Twin Tanya. That was all there was.
Back in coils, we didn't have markers.
and
back in my day.
Back in my day, Bahamut's palm, it actually had the ridge, and we used to abuse it for height mechanics. Almost spilled some of my coffee when I did that.
Back in my day, we had something called Pepsi Man, and he twerked all over you, and you died, and you fucking liked it.
Oh, God. Sly and I can talk a lot about old Pepsi Man. I know, Whoops, you'll have to talk about new Pepsi Man more than anything else.
Yeah, how we tried to make it old Pepsi Man and sort of succeeded, but
well, you just punished yourself for it not punishing you.
Right. Yeah. So handicapped ourselves.
So we're kind of all over the place here at the start, and that's kind of what I expected for us, because Sly knows that I don't usually do show notes anymore. But let's start now. Let's start in the now, because obviously we're talking about the fact that we're basically now on what is probably to be about a minimum 6-7 month wait, if we're going to be guessing when Endwalker is probably going to come out, until we even have another Savage tier. So I don't know about you guys. Sly, where's the prediction at? Because I know that's what you're thinking about right now.
It's not. Like, the thing is, like, the whole 6 to 7 month wait in comparison to, like, it I feel like it's an unfair comparison. So I feel like we should kind of take the weight out of the equation. Like, the delay between raids, take that out of the equation if you're going to compare it. If you're going to compare it to older raids.
Well, for me, it's not even so much about comparing. It's about acknowledging. When we go on these long breaks, I think that's when we stop and really think about the experiences we had throughout the raid tiers the most. Because, like, when you first finish them, you have that recency bias. You've only had maybe a little bit of time. That's normally the opinions that we kind of work with when we do raid shows here. It's normally a week or two after they've come out. Now we are in that, like, weird downtime where we kind of really get to look back and say, okay, what was good, what was bad, what do we hope they do, what do we hope they don't do, going on into Endwalker, because we're not going to have an ultimate to judge. We're just going to have the next Savage tier. So jumping from Savage tier to Savage tier is really, and trust me, when it comes to some patches, Sly, we can use that as a comparison, because 3.1 was a bad time, and that has
we can all agree with that. Equation. We can all agree.
All right. So with that in mind, we want to be talking primarily about Shadowbringers raids and how they've turned out. We can compare them to the old ones of Sly, and I have experience going all the way back to Realm Reborn. Whoops, I know you're getting some experience. Where exactly is your raid experience overall? Whoops, why don't you give everyone an overview?
Sure. So I started raiding Eden's Gate. E1 was my first fight, my first actual Savage raid. I'd done extremes before and all that kind of jazz, but mostly I was just playing story until then. And then I got really, really into it, and I started streaming it, and I eventually got an invite from Pharaoh to join our group, and that's where it really kicked off, and I started paying attention more to, like, what it means when something happens and, like, how it compares to old fights. And now I'm even going back and doing, like, we're doing Gordius right now, and then we're going to do all that. We're going to go all the way through A12S min-eye level, and I've done all the ultimates, so we've done a little bit of coils in prep for raid. So I have really spotty raid experience, I guess, but more confidently just this tier.
But you have played through a lot of those patches and been kind of around also for...
Yeah. I've done all the normal fights and stuff, but, like, Savage, like, haven't been there. Yeah.
Well, you've been there a lot in the last couple of years, and I think that's really going to be the most important thing, because Shadowbringers raids, I think, have fallen under a great deal more scrutiny, if not because there's only one ultimate after Stormblood having two, but just because Shadowbringers was a bigger turning point in terms of separating skill floor and skill ceiling. So I feel like that makes people judge the way the raids actually turn out, or how long they can enjoy them, competing on FF logs, and any of those things for there. So your experience starts with Eden's Gate. We should probably start by looking back at Eden's Gate, because it was the first raid tier of Shadowbringers. 4 weeks after it came out, we had the normals, we had the savages, and it was a very important starting point for the tone that Shadowbringers was going to set with the raid scene, because we had Eden Prime first. That shocked a lot of people. Voidwalker was a big change in design, and that was probably the biggest thing that I'll be talking about, is the change in design from Stormblood raids. Then we had what we knew was going to be a marathon of primals pretty much from that point on, that touched back on a Realm Reborn mechanics in modern and interesting ways. So with you going into Eden's Gate for your first Savage, that had to have been a little bit frightening, I imagine, because
it was really overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that Pharaoh invited you for the 5.2 group. How did you go about approaching Eden's Gate? Was it with friends? Was it Party Finder? What was the idea?
My first group was, he had his own group that had been raiding since, like, the beginning of Stormblood, and they were real tight. But one of their tanks ended up having a kid right before the tier came out, And so they were looking for another player. And then my friend who was on the team was like, I know a guy who wants to start raiding. He's really cool. We can take him on. But he only plays Dragoon. They had a Dragoon player already who also only played Dragoon. So we did Eden's Gate with 2 Dragoons.
That sounds like this show a lot of weeks, to be honest. We have 2 Dragoons on this show more than we have any other job combination in any Studio, and including this week as well. And that was it. From that point, you didn't even know that was going to be the starting point for everything.
Yeah, so it definitely didn't help in learning about like buff alignment and stuff. We kind of just struggled through. It took us a couple months to get everything finished. I actually didn't end up doing Titan with them. We didn't get our clear with that group until we had all pugged it on our own and then got back together and found out how to actually do it. So, yeah. Well, it was interesting, and man, it was so hard because the way that a lot of people teach this game is by recalling to past mechanics. That was something I struggled with. So when we're on E2 and they're like flamethrower positions, I'm like, what, bro? Like, what does that mean?
I'm surprised flamethrowers. That's actually going to be funny because I'm sure you're more aware now of people saying things like Proteans.
Yeah,
for that.
And I know what flamethrowers means now and stuff, but like it just learning about the history of the game and also how to play my class correctly at the same time was really overwhelming. But I learned a lot really quick. So,
Sly, I'm assuming you're reading chat and that you're trying to resolve an issue that I don't see the issue. It lines up for me, so I'm wondering how much of it is that. I don't know. I have a few things I can help you with. For those who are wondering, chat's been saying Sly's audio and his mic are a little bit off. On Discord, it seems mostly okay. If it's off, it's off by such a small amount. I can't even really notice. I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, seems good to me. Thread closed.
Yeah, and that's it. We run the show, so that's it. You guys can hear him anyway. That's all that matters. Just do this if you don't want to see his mouth not line up with his, just do that. He'll be fine. So I forgot what. So we got he got started in Shadowbringers, but you, Sly, have been around since 2.4 ish, around the PS4 launch time, and you did your coils. I'll say, went into Alexander and suffered like many did with some of the encounters. You're muted, by the way. I know you muted while you were fixing the thing. Oh God! Whatever you did, you're super choppy now.
Broken.
Yeah, whatever you did is like
by an admin.
Yeah, robot alert. Whatever you just did, undo it. Oh yeah, whoops! Your voice doesn't match your mouth either. By the way.
Oh crap! My bad.
Yeah, you should definitely take the time to adjust your settings.
Become as gods.
Become as gods. Yeah, everything seems fine. It all looks like it's matching.
Yeah,
to me. I don't know if
fine.
it's just going through or not, or you fixed it and you don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks fine to me.
It looks good.
Yeah, that's it. Thread closed, like you said.
Thread closed.
Yeah. So before you turned into a robot, yeah, you went into Alexander raids. Yeah, so you have a broader history, is the big thing.
I mean, not broad. I mean, like I said, I went into Alexander, didn't do Gordius, but I completed Alexander. I completed what's the other one? Coil. The end of Omega was just because of time. And my dedication to pugs, which it's hardly there. It's there in the beginning, but as time goes by, other shit happens. I can't give that time to pugs anymore.
To be fair, most of us wish we didn't give as much time to pugs as we do. So
yeah,
you pug just to your sanity levels, because for like when you first got into it, you were like you went balls to the wall when you first like got into coils. I remember you went through 1 through 5, 6 through 9, 10 through 13. You went through those at pretty rapid succession, I'd say. And you stayed on top of it pretty well until, like you said, the end of Omega. Even though Alexander was You two will both get to talk about Alex. Yeah. We'll definitely get to talk about Alexander in particular.
I'll get there.
We'll definitely get there. But overall, but you largely had to go through pugging whatever you could actually get through in Shadowbringers. So that's quite a different perspective, because pugging is really taken off with all the quality of life over the expansions. Crossworld, Party Finder, markers being added, all sorts of different tools that are now available both in and out of game to help people get through that. So what was your raid experience overall like this expansion, going into it with that pug life in mind?
Pretty much the same, honestly. It's just like the first few days, it's like people either trying to figure it out or
don't say
have you watched a Mr.
Don't.
Have you watched a
Mr. Happy video?
I'm watching the Mr. Happy video right now. Are we doing the Mr. Happy strat? Are we doing the Happy strat?
Did I tell you that I went into a pug a couple weeks ago for E9 and they said Happy Brambles, and I explained to them how it worked and they're like, that's not how it works. And I was like, I made this strategy. They were like, no way. And I was like, yes, look in the video that you're watching right now. That was one of the funniest moments I've had playing this game so far.
That's not how it works.
Love it.
How did they get it wrong? It's you stand in
so easy.
You stand in 8 spots and then you tank dealers one side, DPS other. You run through and you're done.
Yeah.
I don't know what they got wrong that you got right.
I don't know. I don't even remember.
It's probably for the best. God damn. Oh, Sly, why'd you have to bring it there? Now I've just got Valens in my head.
Yep. Watching a Mr. Happy God in the middle of Gaius, sure. Yep.
Fun.
What did you actually end up getting through with your pugs for the most part, Sly, this expansion, before we get into our perspective on the individual raid tiers?
Mostly everything. Mostly like the first few weeks you kind of hit, like I said, I kind of hit it hard. And then, a couple of weeks later, it's like the thing about raid and pugging is that I want to give it a time so bad, but at the same time, Sly plays everything. So it's like after a couple of weeks, it's like, okay, either we're going to get this done or I'm not going to get it done and I'll have to fucking wait. And most of the times I end up having to fucking wait. And I'm okay with that. So like I know people learn differently, especially in pugs. We don't have the advantage of having consistency every pull or every night. I don't know what I'm going to get the next day or the next group or whatnot. So for me, it's slightly fun, but slightly chaotic. And I hate the chaos.
Sly, let me tell you, I think Whoops and I can both agree that being with the same 8 people doesn't always mean that you get consistency.
I would actually rather take that. I would take it. I would rather take that than having to wait on my Uber every time.
Yeah,
that's what I call.
It's nice to have set times. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a special magic in the Party Finder, because you mentioned how everyone learns differently in the Party Finder. Well, they don't. So that's always an experience. Talk about that a little bit later. Anyway. Okay, and then I do everything. Although every expansion, every static I'm in disbands by the end of like 0.4. Or like halfway into 0.4, and I always
because you've already done the content.
Well, no, yeah, and then we end up not staying together until the start. Like and except 2.x. Actually, no, 2.x. I joined one in 2.4 that held till 3.0, and then I left. I was moving during 3.2, so I left that. And I had to do that right before 3.4. 3.4 static didn't last till 4.0, and then the 4.4 static didn't last till 5.0. So.
I feel like after you've done the content and you've pretty much gotten it down, you have every right. You have every right as a static to, break up, do your own thing. Whereas like people still getting it. I mean, again, I don't know what the fuck I'm getting. I don't know what strat we're doing today. Like every day it's a different fucking strat. Every 15 minutes is a different fucking strat. That's the fucking problem. Like we don't know what strat we're doing. and we had to take 10 minutes to figure out what we're doing. Wipe. Somebody get pissed off, leave. Somebody comes back in. What strat are we doing? Oh, I don't like that. We're doing this strat. Are we really?
That's yeah. I wouldn't be able to do that, mostly because I wouldn't be able to keep up
hug.
with I wouldn't be able to keep up with all the strats, I think.
I need a hug.
I would hug you right now, but 3,000 miles and I haven't had my second vaccine shot. So,
yeah, I'm only on shot number 1. Sorry.
Shot number 2 for me is 2 hours before FanFest starts.
Nice.
That's not going to be fun. I'm going to chug a tub of Gatorade. That's the plan. And hope that the
Good idea.
electrolytes do their job. Yeah. So with that, I think we can look back at the first raid tier and see what we started with. Because big thing for me is I use it as a comparison point with Stormblood. Because I'm not a huge fan of Stormblood Savage Raid design. Stormblood Savage Raid design is a lot of
people were.
Yeah, is a lot of first 50% of the fight is the whole fight, and the last 50% is that again. That was the majority of Stormblood's raid design. And they got so far away from that right at the start of Endwalker. Eden Prime does it a little bit. Like maybe the last like 20%, you'll start to see it like loop around a second time. But it's so close to the end. And even then, they still kind of put the attacks in a different order, like with a couple different combinations. So it's not entirely that way. And that was, I don't know about you. I can't stand that whole 50% repeat 50% thing. I hope they never go back to that.
How come? Just because it's boring or too easy?
Imagine you're on the final boss, right? And you get through that crazy hard mechanic. You're like, okay, we're halfway there. And then it's the same just thing. It's that mechanic excluded, the same exact things until the end. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for 6 minutes, it's just people wiping on stuff they've already had to get past for the first 50% of the fight.
So yeah, it's like
not
either
rewarding
either
and
or.
humiliating when you wipe.
Yes, both.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
The only fight that wasn't like that in Stormblood, or wasn't like that a lot, was actually 11, which was easily the highlight of Stormblood rating, and is actually a lot closer to what we have in Endwalker. And Chaos was a little different too. Chaos was the first 50% and the last 50% would just be in a different order. Like it would do like either one set of mechanics first 50% or the other, and every pull it would be,
So after a few pulls, you pretty much had the fight.
Yeah, but at least it wasn't the same thing. It was just like whether or not the order, and I think that's we're going to talk about that a little bit, even with Extreme Trial design in Shadowbringers. But that was one of the highest rated fights in Stormblood for that reason, because it had that like random element of is it going to be this combination first or this combination first, then a couple of other little things that are all splashed in between. But a lot of people really liked it, and I hope that continues on into Endwalker. Oh, I say we were in Endwalker now, Shadowbringers.
Yeah.
that's we call that wishful thinking. Because man, do I wish we were.
Kramer said the wrong word. Get him.
That's the internet for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys, Whoops, you didn't have that comparison point. So for you, this was all just
it was just fresh. My first ever like difficult rating experience in any game.
And going into E1 Sly.
I think that's good for Whoops. I think that's kind of good for you to not be jaded.
Yeah.
As we are.
I've been told that many times.
Yeah, you have that fresh outlook. It's like first time in raids, haven't, gone through the Vietnam flashbacks that we have and shit. Like you're not seeing bad design, quote unquote.
I had to sit in a VC with 7 people who were like that and listen to them complain when I was just like, I think it's fun.
Sorry. Not incorrect. Well, so are you referring to ours, or are you referring to the group that you went into?
My first group. Okay. Yeah. Well, both kind of, but
both.
Mostly my first group. Yeah.
Yeah, because going into E1, E1 really again set the tone for the rest of the Shadowbringers. I got it right that time. Shadowbringers expansions, because it was it was just the kind of all against all the formulas that we had prior to it. So it was actually a really good starting point for you. I agree. Meanwhile, Sly had to learn the hard way how pugs really, really like to operate when it comes to a fight like that. So Sly, going back to the E1 design, going back to the Sly, the drinks, you don't need the booze, Sly. No, you don't need it. You don't. What you got today, Sly? Show us.
No, it's just a beer. It's just a beer.
Yeah, but it's no beer. It's just
for
a
now.
Beer. Come on. Yeah, it's just for now. It could be a float. Just do a beer float, not even a root beer float. I'll stick to my coffee at noon. So where were you going into this, like? Because you weren't a fresh faced, individual when it came to this one. You came in ornery old man, knowing what you were getting into, kind of. So where was the expectation for you, and how did it actually end up turning out going to Eden's Gate?
Like design wise, mechanics wise, what were we talking?
Yeah, because you can draw from that past experience to give kind of the first impression of it, as opposed to being so fresh faced and innocent.
Design wise, I didn't really have any issues with it. Like it in comparison to, if we're gonna compare it to like other first of the tiers, I mean, it wasn't bad to me. It wasn't bad. It's just the experience that kind of ruins it. But
the pug experience.
Yeah, but design wise, I don't think I really had any problems with E1. As far as like a fight and design, like it, when you do the normal, you kind of like you kind of gather a little bit of knowledge of what you may or may not see. And like when I did normal, I thought it was a fun fight. When I did Savage, it was fun to kind of prog. Even as a pug, it was fun to prog. So I didn't have any problems with it. Not too much.
You bring up an interesting point. Talking about how they use a lot of information from normal, because that continued to be a trend for the rest of Shadowbringers. More so than I felt in the past. It always was the case. There's always like normal was built on and Savage. We've always seen that, but
yeah, I think it's kind of safe to say that like everybody, probably y'all included, would do normal and take little mental notes of, oh, this might be this in Savage. Like I think it was really easy to draw on that.
Was that not always a thing in other expansions?
I think it translated a lot more directly in Shadowbringers. Like, so in previous ones, it would be the case most of the time, maybe take out an AoE marker here or there. Sometimes the attacks just have completely different effects in normal versus Savage. It felt a lot more here that if you saw the name of a mechanic in normal, you pretty much instantly could identify that it would be in Savage and how it would be used. That's because they used a lot of they used, what again, the old school people would call it being Chariot and Dynamo. The point blank AoE, the donut AoE. You'd see the spread and stack mechanic. You'd see the 8 people going in different directions, aiming AoEs different. You can see those in normal and know exactly kind of how they're going to be applied in Savage. It was more true in Shadowbringers than in previous expansions, I felt. Yeah,
and it's kind of cool because when I started, like, I didn't have like that toolbox of like movements in my head already, like there's a lot of repeated like things that you have to do in raids, and doing those for the first time, just like, I don't know what a stack is. Do we have to stand on top of each other? Oh, like that was all brand new to me, so it was pretty cool seeing how all of them were used in pretty much the entire first tier, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think No Fight exemplifies that more than the second one, with that of Voidwalker.
Whether it be it had everything in it.
Yeah, the cycles or any sort of the attacks. It was pretty much quintessential, I guess, Raid 101 for anyone who had just started in Shadowbringers, because it had clock positions, it had spread stack. It even had mechanic that I thought was criminally underused. We had it in Heavensward, actually. A stack marker where the center person is a glare marker, also, where you can't look at the person in the center. That was in Diablos Hollow back in Heavensward, and we didn't see much of it. We saw it very, very seldom used after that point. And that I think that's probably a highlight for me, personally, going back to the first raid tier, is that second fight, because it really did Whereas if the first fight set the pace, the second fight told us what the rest of the expansion design would be, and that's for better or worse, I guess you could say. I don't know how you guys feel about the number of repeated mechanics. It does feel higher in Shadowbringers than normal, but I don't know if that's old brain me, again, pulling from that toolbox and seeing it all again and again, or if it really is an over-recurring theme that would continue on.
There was a lot of repeated stuff, but some fights had exceptions, I'd say. E11 and E2 were just the same 3 mechanics over and over again, to be honest.
Yeah. Those fights probably the most directly compare their normals to their savages, just because
where
else were they really going to go?
I feel like the direction they were going with Shadowbringers, and I could be wrong because it is my first year, but like it was introducing mechanic A and mechanic B, and then you do both of them, and it's like, okay, now do them at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of that on repeat for most of the fights.
Yeah, and that actually is, I think that is a direction they're going to more. Something with, so A Realm Reborn, going all the way back, its main theme was every phase, it was HP percentage pushes. That was A Realm Reborn's big thing, is when an HP percentage gets hit, or it takes too long, the boss just becomes almost completely different for the next phase. An entirely new set of things you haven't seen before. Which, without a normal mode, it's kind of hard to draw the comparison. Maybe if it had a normal and it was similar, it wouldn't have felt so weird and off-putting. It's very disconnected, design-wise. Heavensward started to dive into more building on things. You see it a lot with A3, which we'll talk about later, where you kind of actually spend the first 50% learning how each of the phases work, the hands, the body, and the tornado. And then you see all of them at once with a couple of extra things in there. Becomes the kind of the remainder of the fight. Going into Stormblood, they hit that whole 50% repeat. That was their big thing. But Shadowbringers is very much teach, execute. I think that is a thing that they're going to. And I guess, Sly, how do you, because again, you were around for the older raids, so you've seen it all too. Do you prefer that? Because as an old guard myself, I thought it was a little too consistent of a theme to follow.
How so?
It's like every single fight is beginning of the fight. They tell you the tank buster name. They tell you the AoE name. They show you one version of a mechanic, and then it's just a mishmash from that point on. They don't do it in every fight, but it's kind of like over recurring, even more so than in previous expansions. Maybe it's just because it doesn't resonate with me as much as maybe some of the twists and turns from the previous ones.
Okay, to me that's okay. They tell you, like, I'm actually a fan of that. I'm actually a fan of, okay, you get this and you get this. Everything else you're going to have to learn as you go along. We're going to give you at least one thing you're gonna kind of look forward to. You're going to have to look out for. After that, it's going to be a mishmash, like you said, a mishmash of this, and this, and you'll kind of have to learn that as you go along. But I'm a fan of, like, slight teaching, I'll call it. Like, slight, here you go. Get used to it.
Heavensward so far is like, here's the mechanic, fuck you, die. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah. And you haven't even gotten the Midas yet. You thought it was like that in Mordius, huh?
But Shadowbringers raids, I feel like you can take a fresh group of 8 people in, and then like something happens and it almost kills you, and you go, oh, okay, this is how we have to do this from now on.
Yeah.
Shadowbringers is a lot more.
It punishes you to the point where you can't clear with like Vuln stacks or damage downs.
Yeah, Shadowbringers and even Stormblood to some degree is a lot more of tank survived, stay alive, so we can see more mechanics. That didn't happen all the time back in the old days. Did
other expansions have as much arena changes or like arena manipulation as Shadowbringers?
No,
no.
The very first coil fight is a very environmentally driven encounter, and then 5 was until they fixed it. They shied away from any sort of environmentally driven stuff because there were so many exploits and so many issues with it that other than killing the rails on the side of an arena, they really tried to get away from it until a lot more recently.
Because I feel like, for example, like Garuda Ifrit fight, like splitting the arena, or like Titan, like with the upper levels and lower levels, Leviathan, like removing the inside or outside. Like that stuff was really cool. I thought that was a normal thing until I'd gone back and been like, oh, there's not as much as this.
No, there's definitely not. At worst, they normally like the puddles, like a puddle sitting on the arena and just being like a not safe place that's, or under the boss not being safe or something. That's kind of the extent of it for the most part. And that's something, that is a good point with Shadowbringers. I bring it up even with Diamond Weapon more recently. It's
that was great.
It's a very minuscule thing just to ask you to step on a platform and go to the other side. It's not a super interactive thing, but it's engaging to the senses, I feel, at the very least. So going into... It's funny because the fight that's not really environmentally, it's not the same kind of environmentally involved as you're describing, is actually where we was leaving off with E2. The fist, the environmental awareness of the fist and the and the little ads that float around in the directions the AoEs are aimed and stuff. Like, even though that's not traditional, that's not really environmental so much. It's not directly a piece of the boss, and so it kind of asks that extra attention of you.
Yeah.
Especially when everyone gets hit by the ads and now everyone has 50% damage down.
Yes, or when one of the tanks doesn't take the flare out and then everyone blows up.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, anyway, moving on before we have to talk about that. All right. Going into that third fight, Leviathan... So it's funny that you talk about how Leviathan's environmental aspects would be cool, because Leviathan exemplifies something I think Shadowbringers got very wrong throughout a lot of the expansion. And there's way too many boss sits on the north side of the arena, and it's just a giant hitbox fight.
I wanted to talk about this so bad. I'm glad we're here.
Yeah.
A lot of people have an opinion about that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I really mean this. Like, every person I talk to hates those fights, but I'm like, I don't know. They're kind of cool. I like them. Like, what's wrong? I don't know if people think they're boring or what, or if I'm just new and like I haven't seen it enough times, but I thought they're pretty cool. I don't know.
I think it's a break. Like, a fight like that is definitely like you have two challenging fights, and then you kind of get a break with this one. You kind of get a break. You kind of get a striking dummy, so to speak. You get a striking dummy with mechanics. That's not necessarily a bad thing in terms of the level or amount of challenge it may be, but it's a break. Why not?
I think that's fine once in a while. I think if Leviathan had been one of the few examples of it in Shadowbringers, it wouldn't have felt so egregious. But the problem is, for us old guard, we have a reference point of when it's done much better. And if you haven't done it, Neo X-Death is probably the best exemplified boss sits on one side of the arena encounter. Because the whole arena is still used. I think the most boring thing is the boss sitting in one spot. There's very little to worry about in regards to tanks positioning the boss, to positionals. There's like entire game mechanics that are essentially left out of the equation in favor of the arena being a giant dance floor. More so than anything else. I think that once in a while it's okay, but that they every fight where they did decide to do that, or almost every fight, it was a stagnant. They did very little with it. They didn't do much creative with it. So that's really where it stood for me. Like Titan, I think the last phase of Titan, I think, is actually a great example of it done well, which we'll get to talking about in a little bit.
Lots of movement.
Yeah, where it's both. It really plays on both of them, and I think that and Neo X-Death are probably the two best examples of that kind of design. Although Neo X-Death has the issue of never auto attacking, which was a really weird choice. Yeah, that's really weird that they just made him not auto attack at all. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, it's interesting to hear that you're okay with it. Is it okay with it, or is it just like, is it just Leviathan in particular that you were okay with?
I liked Idol as well, and I know that's a super hot take. Maybe it's because I'm newer and I was still learning, and like I hadn't gotten to the point where I can just completely turn my brain off and play the game. But I liked looking around, especially on Idle, and like checking to see where things were, at least during Prague. Reclears is boring because you know you can just stand in the same spot 80% of the time.
That was a design. That was just a design flaw. That had nothing to do with the boss being stuck north. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. I'd forgotten about that. It's been a while since I've had to talk about Idol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Leviathan also ran into an issue of being a little underscaled. This was something they didn't struggle with, I don't think, in the second or third tier, but it was really easy DPS check wise on Leviathan, even in week 1. Like eventually became skipping Black Smokers became kind of the standard thing. I think Black Smokers is the best mechanic in that whole fight too, which is really unfortunate. I don't think Tsunami's all that interesting.
I agree with that.
The uptime strats for Tsunami were interesting.
Yeah,
shit was fucking scary.
And I that was when I like this illegal talk. I first got into like parsing and like actually like improving like how I could exactly do my stuff, but like that's when I first learned of like mechanics that RNG wise like 50% of the time it's just like fuck you, like no matter what, just you're out of the fight for 5 seconds. I don't like that. Not because of parsing, but because it's just not fun to, not hit the boss when that's
also
your job.
because of parsing.
Also because of parsing. Yeah.
I've heard comms before when people get targeted for things. I know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's even worse in pugs when you know you're doing the best and you look like you look over at ACT and you're like, okay, just don't target me, and you're like
damn it.
Every fucking time. It's like that with Titan Jails in Unreal. It's like that in Ultimate also. You don't know. Well, I guess in Ultimate, no, it's always the healer who gets targeted. I think it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, in Titan Unreal, it's very much a... Can you take the other healer? Can you take the other DPS? Yes? Cool. Please. Illegal talk. Here we say illegal. With the emphasis on the E for ACT. Illegal. Yeah, because we gotta put all that emphasis on the word.
Yes.
Sly, don't look at me like that.
Why are you like this?
Sly, you don't know the half of it. You only have to be around me just enough amount of time to get like a little bit. There are people I live with my girlfriend. All right, it's much worse for her. I can't help myself, Sly.
What, do you complain about your parses to her or something?
No, he means the No, he means dad jokes, saying dumb things. Oh, yeah, I go to bed at night and I'm just like, she's like, why are you so upset? And I'm like, I almost had that orange parse and then I got jailed in Titan. I'm so fucking mad.
I mean, to be honest, I kind of get like, can we just sack this run real quick? Can somebody die? Can we just wipe? Can we just fuck up a mechanic just so we can redo this pull? Because
in there.
No. The best is when a warrior goes, just nobody attack. My inner release is coming up. Just nobody attack. Just nobody attack. Fucking warriors. Every time. It's like, my attacks are coming up too. I don't care. That's fine. I need this right now. All right, so Leviathan gets a pass from 2 of us. I think it's just the worst example of that kind of fight. But fortunately, the next fight is, I think, honestly, still looking back, a highlight across the whole expansion in that of Titan.
Titan brownies.
Yeah, is that what the arena looks like to you? It's just a bunch of brownies?
Just a bunch of brownies.
Sly, I'm supposed to be the one who makes food references here. I
actually saw an edited picture. It was just a tray of brownies with Titan standing on top.
I've never seen that.
What? Okay. Hold on, I'll find it for you.
This is important. The show can't go on until you see Titan brownies.
I can talk and look at the same time.
I can't. That's fine. That's because I end up clicking on something and then everything screws up with OBS. So I just hands here at my side on my face, nowhere near searching anything. This was for me one of the biggest highlights, and I think even now it stands up. What are you laughing about?
I sent the picture.
In the chat.
Oh, it's in the chat. Okay, I have to look it up on my phone because otherwise it's gonna mess up all the videos and stuff. Okay. And people are tweeting me pictures of sexy fish now on Twitter because of the fucking Pokemon Snap thing. Yeah. That's what I get for tweeting that. I knew I would regret that decision. So while I'm searching at this, okay, yeah. So Titan exemplifies, I think, some of the best design choices in Shadowbringers across the boss sits on the north, arena manipulation, character movement. Even if it's kind of static in a sense that the rules are very defined, like they give you platforms and like this is exactly where the AoE will take place. There's almost this heartbeat that starts every time a mechanic with a marker goes out in that fight, because you hear that loud boom every single time one of the markers goes off, and it's very satisfying. So,
especially if your camera's right over one of the explosions.
Oh yeah, god damn it, the fucking brownies. Now I want brownies. Those are really good brownies. Those are really good looking brownies.
Yeah.
You could have sent me a picture of less appetizing brownies, so that way I'm not thinking about the brown. It's like just I can't. It's just did it disappear? No, it didn't. What the fuck? I can't hold it up. Oh, it's because I have two different cameras. That's why. There you go, brownies.
Brownies.
All right, so so that must have been an experience. That was your first final boss of a raid tier. That had to have been an experience. Whoops.
What's that?
That was your first final boss of a raid tier that you had to contend with.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it was a really good one. I will hold that fight close to my heart for as long as I play. It was awesome to have my group struggle with it so much to the point where I was like, you know what, guys? I'm gonna go into Party Finder and I'm gonna figure out the best strats and I'm gonna learn how to play, blah blah blah, and then I'm gonna bring it back. And then I did that. And it was awesome. It was a great feeling. So, man, that fight's really fun, too.
Yeah, it is. That's why I dread this. But, again, very different experience from the rest
You
of us.
didn't like it, huh?
No, Sly, I feel like, is objective enough to like it without hating
I actually liked it. I actually liked Titan. Like, once we kind of got it down, again, like, not a bad... Once you really get it down, not a bad pug experience.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It's weird, because it's on the surface, it looks like a nightmare. Like, even when you're, like, learning it, you're thinking about, like, everyone screwing up markers, or the blue marker hitting other people, or people messing up elevations, or any of those things. And yeah, when you comes down to it, it's really just the last phase, which isn't that difficult, is really where it's either the very first phase or the very last phase, where it all just kind of falls apart. If anywhere.
Yep.
It's weird. I wonder what about that fight makes it more puggable. Is it just because of how defined all the markers are and like there's no guessing about like distances and things?
Again, brownies.
Brownies, baby. It all comes back to brownies.
As opposed to using, like other... In terms of like environmentals, in terms of environmentals, when you kind of compare like other arenas, like, oh, you can use, if you look at these patterns on the arena, you can use this circle to find out where you need to stand. Whereas brownies, you have your own goddamn square. Like it's pretty much set in stone where you're going to be. Like it's... I'm gonna say it's hard to fuck up, but like at the same time when you're learning it, it's like, oh, okay. Actually, this is so fucking simple. Yeah, not bad. Brownies.
Yeah, so that's been a big thing. That was something we noticed a lot in Shadowbringers. Even fights that didn't have necessarily the player interacting with the environment, like you say with the brownies, they really tried to make all of the arenas useful in Shadowbringers.
Yeah. Like design wise, they started designing the arena out, like with you kind of using it and using patterns in mind to find out, oh, you could stand here. You can stand in this little circle right here, or you could stand on this little triangle right here and be safe. So, yeah, I like them. I like the design team using patterns on arenas instead of just having like you have a rectangle that's pretty much plain. Good luck. Have fun.
Do you think there's something special about how players figure out those spots? So I've been doing a lot of unsynced Thornton just to try and get the card, because I'm trying to collect some cards ahead of the achievement coming. And I remember the big thing with Thornton is instead of trying to figure out where to stand for the dive bombs, there's markers on the ground. Like there's like little patterns that people just use to memorize. Do you think Is there any novelty in that for you that's lost here? For me, not. But I always find it interesting. You know, people say stand on the nipple or stand on this looking spot or something. Nipple strats. Nipple strats are big, man.
Nipple strats. We love nipple strats.
Yeah. That's gonna
any
be
novelty
silent
lost
right after that. Yeah, any novelty lost? Do you feel like in the arena design is a little too boring, a little too symmetrical? For some people, that's a big deal.
It's become a bigger deal now because we kind of look forward to it whenever we step into a raid for the first time and we look at the arena. It's like, okay, let's see how this arena looks. There seems to be some symmetry going on here. We can maybe make use of this. So I feel like it's come to be expected more. So yeah.
What about you? So for you, I mean, you're kind of getting to experience it now. Where people are probably using arena patterns. You'll use it a lot more a little bit later in Alexander.
Yeah.
If I think about it. So for you, this is kind of the standard now. It's the expectation is that the arena is going to have patterns and markings that separate even boss AoEs.
And honestly, I never really paid too much attention to that until probably I joined our group in 5.2. They've done a really good job at just straight up putting on the floor where things are going to happen for like the entire fight, and I think that's, while it's a little hand-holdy, I think it's kind of necessary at some points because it's not like it's doing the mechanic for you. You still need to like know how to do things, but those markers on the floor are super helpful.
Yeah, we'll probably get to talk about that a little bit with the most recent raid tier a little bit later on because it's huge.
And let me just say, the arenas in Alexander so far, even in the first 4 fights, are huge.
Yeah.
Way bigger.
Yeah.
And they also don't have kill walls, which was surprising to learn.
Well, 3 kind of has one. Sort of.
A small dot.
Sort of.
Paralysis.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yes, they nerfed that too, didn't they?
Yeah, it doesn't insta-kill you.
Actually, I don't remember if it always did. It might have been survivable in the past if I could unporky pig that sentence.
What, A3?
Yeah, A3. I don't remember. I'd have to look back, and I don't have.
It was faster to just let the boss kill you than run out. Honestly.
Yeah, I remember like
having just done it.
Did a lot of damage, but I don't remember it outright killing you. I may be wrong.
Yeah, because I know you could technically survive things like the puddle dot in OG A3. Because like sometimes people would go to do the magnets and they wouldn't do it correct and they'd go into the puddle for a second and they'd still live. Of course, the AoE that came right after was normally not as kind to them, but you know that's still definitely. I remember. So that I'd say that Titan pretty much caps off kind of an ideal first tier. A lot of, again, environmental stuff, a decent showing of a True North boss on top of a boss that moves. That final phase in particular is just, it's a wonderful, wonderful dance of not too difficult mechanic. It's got that like ultimate pressure of this is it, but also like here's a few things that'll really fucking ruin your day. And I'm all about that. Well, we move into the second tier. And the second tier had an ultimate before it. And this is always rough. Because once you've done an ultimate, going into another savage tier, there's kind of a level of disappointment that takes place. Again, this is only among like the people who are way too into this kind of thing. This is for the average person, this really doesn't matter. But man, going from Epic of Alexander into second savage tier, the beginning of the tier in particular is normally little resident sleeper. A little bit. T experience wise, I beat it about a month after it came out. Whoops, when did you do T?
I was literally just thinking of that. I think I did it 2 or 3 months after it came out. Let me double check.
Okay.
When my first clear was, and I'll get back to you on that. I'm looking right now.
Yeah, I progged it hardcore for 2 weeks, then the group fell apart. Pretty much, like we lost like one person at the end of the first week, then another person the next day, then another person at the end of the week, and then I finally said, "I'll be next."
My first T clear was January 18th.
Yeah, so that's that's not. I don't even know if that's 2 months. Yeah, I think that's 2 months. That sounds about
was
right.
Was that before Verse came out?
Yeah, because I think Alexander came out. It was either early December or sometime in November. Definitely before Verse came out, though.
Yeah, I was doing T and UCOB at the same time at that point.
God help your soul.
It was rough. And I swore on my life I'll never prog 2 ultimates at the same time ever again.
Well, the good news is you
Ever.
probably never have 2 ultimates to prog at the same time ever.
That was right around then at the end of 5.1 is when I seriously got into raiding, and that's when I like actually wanted to learn like the top stuff and like really understand it. So that's when I was like, yeah, I'll do 2 ultimates. It should be no problem. And then I was like, fuck, go back, no.
Yeah, I can't imagine having to prog Nisi and Twisters in 2 different groups. Well, I don't know if it was 2 different groups. I'd assume it was. Not one
it
group
was
and 2
a
different.
mix of some people, but not everyone was the same.
Yeah, T World first was November 16th, so 2 months after that. So yeah, it's definitely before Verse.
Okay.
Yeah. So, oh man, Sly, I don't even think you bothered. There's too much. There's too much. No way you were pugging. I'd be in the dude. If it came down to I had to pug it, I would literally not.
Did people pug T?
Yeah,
Is that
people
a thing?
still pug it now.
People tried. People
Really?
tried. People fucking tried.
People succeed.
Huh. I could not imagine having to pug that.
See,
That's a thing where you need like static positions.
so
Like,
here's the thing. You'd think that, but man, you gotta see what those fucking T-strats look like now. They are so optimized. I love looking at what people do now in T. It's so much smarter and easier to understand in terms of positioning. Like just keeping Cruise Chaser and Brute on each other the whole time. And
it's been a long time since I've been in there.
Yeah, like so you know how with Brute you have to aim, like a lot of groups would separate the two, like that was pretty common.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, literally now it's just like you face Cruise to the left, you face Brute to the right, and they just stand together the whole time, so everyone can easily like do water and lightning and group for the fucking everything. It's so beautiful.
It's things like that where I just think like, why did nobody think of this? Like for the first 3 months this thing was out. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's honestly, watch someone, if you can find someone on Twitch who's like pugging it and you see it's, watch it for 5 minutes.
I watched some speedruns, not pugs, but speedruns, and some things they do in there are crazy. Like they have one person take all the Jagdalls at the beginning, and then right before the Jagdalls get to the person and do an AoE, they get rescued to the party on the opposite side of the arena. So they dodge the AoEs, and then all the Jagdalls come in at the same time and get fed. So cool.
That's pretty fun. See, I wouldn't do that in a pug.
It's like a split-second rescue. Oh, there's like so many cool things you can do. That's why I love like watching other groups do things.
Yeah, there's a lot of great T has a lot of variability when it comes to stuff you'll see between different skilled groups. One of the healthier things about it, because T's my least favorite of the 3 personally, but it has a lot of healthy design choices that lead to things like that. That I think is quite good from a viewing experience and from a relearning experience. But
yep,
T was a bit of a mess when it came out in a degree. I mean, it was actually kind of a changing point for the way that we as a community approach even just now regular raid tiers, because it was the fall of not the fall of leaks. It was the fall of data mining being kind of like a publicly acceptable thing. For those who don't remember, the first group that cleared it in about 3 days, and it took 6 or so days before I think Stahl's group managed to get it second. One of our first ever like top placing like live streamed kills. World second.
Is it really that quick? I thought it was a couple weeks.
3 days.
I don't remember
for the first kill. Mm-hmm.
Damn.
And all throughout that time, there were tons of data mine stuff on Twitter. There was tons of stuff in Discords, and people started sending death threats to the people who had cleared it first. There was like a bunch of accusations of like
what
private servers where they practiced mechanics and things like all sorts of really weird stuff. So much so that Screenix stepped in and made it like a huge issue if you were actually supporting data mine related stuff. They banned the guy who was tweeting data mine stuff, and that was pretty crazy.
I just remembered being disappointed because I accidentally saw the last boss in T.
Yeah,
from a data mine. I was like, no,
I bet we saw
that would have
from
been
the
really
same
cool.
location. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was also Paisley Park was another thing
remember
that came
that?
out of that. Yeah, It was as much as we kind of looked past T for the fight itself, it's really kind of a huge turning point in the way that they approached raid tools and what was acceptable in the community and stuff, because they pulled no punches on trying to make sure that the message was fucking clear. They're like,
they snapped their fingers and made everything standardized and said, if you can't do this, you're not playing. So
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, there was a third-party mod that showed invisible AoEs that came out.
Yep, I remember that too.
Yeah.
From the
I
Asian server.
never saw this.
Yeah.
There was a Chinese player who showed a screenshot of his gameplay, and it was showing like protean waves on the ground before they hit. I remember that.
Yep.
It was insane. And at the same time,
Wow.
there was also some controversy around somebody who made a Unity game that was wormhole practice.
Yep.
It had the same exact controls and camera angles of Final Fantasy 14, and you could practice wormhole with other people.
Yep.
And whether or not that was acceptable, because that's a mechanic that's however so many minutes into the fight, and it took out the raid stamina kind of mechanic towards progging. That was pretty cool to see, but also wild. Yeah.
Illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy thinking back. Like, a lot of that stuff kind of got forgotten, or people who weren't in the scene or just didn't concern themselves with any sort of like outside influence of their own experience wouldn't have seen all that. And it's why we have the marker system we have now, where you can't place them in the middle of battle, but they gave us a few extras. They gave us presets. It's
Not enough, by the way.
not enough. I completely agree. Don't worry, still better than duty recording. Anyway, I'll never let it go. Never let it go. They took action against a lot of those programs, so that you don't see them if they do exist or they are around. You really don't see them as much nowadays, because people will try to keep them on the down low. And data mining, if I recall correctly, they made Reddit delete their data mining section on their Discord, and a bunch of other stuff came from that. So that fight was super controversial for everything that didn't have to do with the fucking fight. Just things people did to try and make the fight proggable for themselves.
I never actually followed up on this, but I was wondering if the Enigma Codex buff like ever actually got data mined and used.
What do you mean?
So you remember how people were getting to the calibrations, right?
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to see all that stuff unless you had the Enigma Codex. Did people data mine that?
Oh, people
that
knew
you
there
got?
was a codex. Yeah, almost anyone who was following any of the data mines knew there was a codex, that there was a buff that was unexplained.
Here's a question for you. Do you think that was unfair to know that there was a buff?
I think that's specifically why they try to like quell more public use of data mining, because I think a big part was the spoilers of seeing the final model of Alexander before the patch was even live. I literally hadn't logged into the game. I was already seeing tweets of the final model of Perfect Alexander.
Yep, same.
And I think this is the same with the debuffs, because it was the same thing in Uwu. Like, when people got, in that 9-10 hour mark, and they were like, why are we dying to La Habrea? It eventually boiled down to, people already knew that there were buffs that were unexplained. And they just started thinking, well, I wonder what if.
Backwards.
Yeah. Well, yeah, eventually what it boiled down to is people actually did legitimately figure out Awakening without data mining, but they then could draw the line and figure out the rest, essentially.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a mix, whereas it was anyone who knew anything about data mining knew about the Enigma Codex already. It's just a matter of what it was and what the point of it was when you got it, pretty much any of that stuff. That nobody learned. Everyone had to experiment. I remember Sfia specifically said when we brought him on about T that there were only so many locations you could deliberately do something wrong. That after Uwu, that where they found it was just one of the most common sense locations. And if you think about it, anything else you do wrong before then is a KO. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's one of the only places where you can actually do it. But yeah, data mining has definitely led to that. I see in various Discords, people still do it. And I still see entire lists of like buffs and debuffs posted, even if it's not posted as publicly. So I do wonder if they eventually take any further notice of it. But I think it's kind of like with RMT advertising in the Party Finder. It's just like they just don't bother because it's not actually in the game. Even though it is, in that case, technically in the fucking game.
Right.
I saw somebody tweet Speaking about raiding, obviously sales have become a huge problem in recent years, more so than they ever were, with the party finder being what feels like way too full of them. They now say coaching on them.
Really?
Yeah, they say a lot of them say coaching. I saw that shit the other day on Twitter, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? They now sell coaching services. Oh my god, one day they'll do something. Ugh. But yeah,
Maybe.
that led into 5.2, which had, like we said, that's when the marker changes came out. There was some quality of life that was made going into that fight. But the second tier was, I would call it the Midas, both in terms of numerical placement and in terms of advancement from the first tier. I'd call it the Midas of Shadowbringers, where they pack a punch right out the bat. There's like an up and down in the middle, and then the end is absolutely a nightmare for a lot of people to set your expectations. Whoops, by the way. So, yeah. No,
Lovely.
Midas is the most fun tier also, which I don't think is actually true of the Shadowbringers one. So,
What's the order again? It's Gordius,
Midas, Creator.
Midas, Creator. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you might be on Gordius for a while. Depends on how you're doing it. We'll talk about.
We got to Nisi Prague after 4 hours today.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Really?
Yeah. You want to know where the other 20 plus hours are going to go?
Oh, fuck.
And it really depends on how you end up doing it. We'll talk about it after we're done talking about the Shadowbringers raids, because that's going to be a fun thing to dig into.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to spoil too much. I'm just giving you expectations, because I know you're.
Yeah, I mean, I know what the normal fights are, and I can imagine how difficult they're going to be. So it's
Yeah, it's a hell of a time. Yeah. But going into the second tier, this tier was for me actually more of a highlight than I think it was for some people. I think I'm of a firm belief, similar to you with Leviathan, that it's kind of an over-criticized tier overall. When I think back to Pugging, and Pugging sucked. This was an awful tier for Pugging.
I didn't pug at all.
That's smart. This was an awful tier. Sly.
I heard
definitely
how
his
bad
least
it was
favorite
after
tier.
our week 1 clear, like already, and I was just like, no, I'm just done.
Funny thing, the first pugs didn't go too bad, but as you got later in the tier, it definitely got worse.
Oh yeah. That's true most of the time, but it was definitely more true. It happened faster and it was more true. And I think that's a lot because of E5. E5 was
Really?
Yeah. E5 was a time, man. That fight is
It was a time, but
I didn't like that fight,
pug-wise.
but only because I was melee. The fight as itself was nice because there were like actually mechanics that would just kill you if you didn't, if one person didn't do them right, which I feel like that should be a thing in most fights.
it should at least be somewhat present more than it is.
Yeah. Not like every mechanic, but there should be at least one thing, or if somebody messes it up, then yeah.
I don't know. E5 felt kind of like it reminded me a little bit of Lakshmi EX, where it was just real and chill. It's just orb and you're okay. Even though I will say, as a melee, I fucking hated it because range always steps in and takes fucking melee orbs like.
Yes.
Bruh, you are.
It's so bad, Sly. It's so bad.
and
It
then,
is terrible.
in pugs they'd be like True North Furious 14, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm the Dragoon, but I'll go to spot number 7 on the opposite side of the fucking boss. No problem, you guys. No, I'll just wait over here. That sucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shadowbringers
Because
has
people are
been
fucking
big on.
divas about that shit for some reason.
Yeah, in my static, we do True North.
Oh my god. This is eventually when we get to EA, it's gonna kick off another topic, but
Yes.
excuse me. This Shadowbringers was big on people doing comfort over sense. It was true of Ruby Weapon. Listen, I couldn't think of another word. I was panicking.
Familiarity.
I was
over
panicking.
I'm
brand.
sorry. I'm sorry. No, you're right. You're right. It's so
You're
perfect.
right.
Comfort over sense is like the best descriptor.
I mean, even
Holy
thinking
fuck.
to like Titania, like sending the DPS south instead of north into the boss to get hit, because then the tanks were like, oh, but I want to hit the boss. And they're like, okay, and your point?
To Too bad.
Should have set it to 4 ranged in the party finder then. They wouldn't have to talk about it.
You got range skills, don't you, Dragoon? You got one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got
Technically, you got a few.
Spear toss.
I'm helping.
Hooray! Hooray!
One day they'll make it like you can follow it up with a gap closers. One day they'll.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like 15.
Yeah. Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
One day they'll also add a refresh to disembowel on the AoE rotation, but I won't get into that now.
No, they won't. They'll never do it. Sorry.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
It's never gonna happen. Yeah. But that was kind of a big thing. And E5, I think it happened with Titania. They kind of forgot because it was an extreme trial. They did it with Ruby, same patch. It's kind of forgotten. Again, extreme trial.
Mm-hmm.
This did not get forgotten. The whole True North versus relative strat has spawned so many memes. I love it.
Oh my god.
I love
so many.
What was the one? Was I with you, Whoops, where you said it was like somebody said it was like it was relative from under the arena or something?
Oh god.
What?
Yeah.
Was this you? Holy shit. I remember hearing about this shit.
Yeah, I don't remember. That might have been Sphia. I don't remember. Yeah, relative.
Sphia told the story.
It was a tweet chain that I was on, and Zeph was replying to it, and he showed it to us.
Clockwise from under the arena. That's right. Not
clockwise
relative.
from under the arena.
Yeah, clockwise from under the arena.
or like looking in.
Oh my god.
Looking in, looking out.
Yeah, looking
like
in, looking out. I think I saw one that was clockwise relative True North, just as like a fucking joke at that point, because they. Yeah, we do relative True North here. What's relative True North means? Well, it's True North relative to me. And it's like,
what?
What? What the fuck are you talking about? Oh
Classic.
Man. Yeah, classic. Yeah, and I think Romo really made that more, because what thing about the first tier? What really strategically, like there were some placements like uptimes or whatever, like whether or not you left the flare marker in range for Leviathan, like that was really it. Like most of the fun stuff people just did in the statics.
Yeah, those fights were all pretty static position wise. No real randomness.
And then you got to the second tier, and it was, relative, True North, triangle strat on Chain Lightning, circle strat on Chain Lightning.
The arena split with Garuda Ifrit. I hated that fight, by the way.
The arena split with Garuda Ifrit, soccer uptime, all sorts of different
things. Lots of position memes.
Yeah. And then you had I can't remember the nickname for the portals, the static portal positions. There was a fun little nickname. I remember Xenos described it as, if you see red right there, it's hot, you gotta move. You see cold, it's chill, you can just stand right there. And I'm like, what are you talking about, Xenos?
Yeah, there's just two
brain dead. That's right, brain dead portals.
Brain dead portals. I mean, it was the same two squares the entire fight for that mechanic.
There, llamas swap it like it's hot. There you go.
Swap it like it's hot.
It's such a weird, and then of course, you get to E8, and that's where it all kind of culminates.
Man, that fight could have been a lot more fun if the portals were more random, like position wise. They like rotated them clockwise.
You know what a hot take is, of course, right? Whoops.
What?
You know what a hot take is? Yeah? That's what you just had there is the coldest take imaginable.
Would you have not liked that?
No, I would have loved that. Everyone agrees with you. Not a single person goes, no, I like it this way. Not a single person. Yeah. Not a single person is happy with how those portals turned out. And I can't say I blame them. Yeah, and then we learned.
And then we were like, oh, they're so easy.
They are more interesting on normal. I don't think that's the only time this happens, this expansion, too. There's something on normal that's actually more interesting.
Yeah, E1, dude. That phase, I don't remember what it's called, but that phase where you go to the darker area.
The orbs?
And it drops all the AoEs. Oh, and then you have to run to one of the corners. That's way harder on normal than it is in Savage.
That's because everyone's running around like a fucking monkey with a banana.
Yeah, but...
A lot of the times normal can be more fun just because everybody is just a chimp with their thumb up their ass. Like it's just what happens most of the time. Yeah, Innocent's ad phase is harder on normal, where like snapshots the pull in like before she even gets anywhere near them. Yeah, I remember that as well. Yeah, it happens a few times. But that was just such a big thing with all of this second tier, is it was just so much just disagreement on strategies. It started with E5, E6 not super bad, but still everyone, that one was frustrating because you get to the last 20%. Everyone's like, oh, this is easy, and then the last 20% just fucking falls apart every time on Rock the Pasta?
Rock the Pasta.
Rock the Pasca.
Why do I feel like that's not the right, what I just said? It's not
I always
right.
say pasta.
Yeah, I think it's...
Yeah, everybody always calls it Rock the Pasta.
Okay. Yeah. It's like when we called Ravana ravioli. I remember
Ravioli.
that. Yeah, that worked. Okay. Yeah, no one knew how to do the last mechanic. You just kind of hoped you skipped it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
7, I don't even want to talk about 7. The thing is, there's not much to say about these other than talking about the variety of strategies, because that is what really defines the tier.
7 actually had a lot of different strategies in it because of where you would, that, I forget what it's called, where it'd, like it split the arena into 3. There'd be the inside, the left out, and then the right out.
Oh, you mean, yeah, where the teleporting? With the teleporting?
Yeah, and then it'd give you the
T-strat
teleport
versus cross-strat? Yeah.
And there was a bunch of different ways to do that. And, like, if you went into a party finder, there was always 2 people who had their statics do it a different way, and then they would complain and argue until one of them finally gave up.
Yeah, because
it's the same thing.
At that point, you just fucking leave the party and go to a party with some goddamn sense.
Yeah.
Well, no, because here's the thing. What was happening is statics would do it in such a way that just it made a lot of sense. But what pugs were starting to try to do, or a mix of people were trying to, and I guess make the party finder more intelligent. God bless their souls. They were trying to make the healers end up in the center so they could just start healing before the room wide. Was ultimately what led to a lot of the disagreement there. Because a lot of people just didn't care. The healers would end up on the outside, and then they'd have to move in while everyone else. That's what the pugs were trying to get through. And it just, when it worked, it was beautiful. And when it didn't, man, did you just lose people to a room wide for essentially no reason. Or people just went off the edge because they did a GCD at the last second and didn't turn.
Yep.
That was a
I actually died to a fucking room wide when I was full HP too. Like, we never figured out why the fuck it happened. This was after teleports and everything. This is right before the phase transitions. And this was like with the semi-pug. It was semi-pug, semi-static. And we did it, and I died. And I was mitigated, but I don't know why I fucking died. It's one of those random fucking things that I still wanted to figure out to this day. I'm like, why the fuck did I die there?
I wonder if you were overflowed on shields. Because that was a thing. That was a thing.
There's a surge in the ether.
Because that was one of the reasons they had to do the number crunches. We had a point where you could be over shielded by too much, and if you took a hit, your HP went to 0 this expansion.
Bonk.
Yeah. So I doubt that's what happened to you, but it makes me think of that. So yeah, it was an underflow issue. Well, it was an overflow that led to an underflow. So yeah, it was just an underflow issue.
It was possible.
It was possible. Yeah, it happened. So I think it happened. I think we first saw it on Seed of Sacrifice. That was the first time I remember seeing it. So it would have been the same item level because it's the same rate tier. So yeah, and then obviously we get to E8, and this is a huge point of contention for how people feel, because I personally think this is a great fight.
I love it.
But as Sly is exhibiting a loud groan of how we end up feeling about it while we're doing it, it led to a lot of... What's the word I'm looking for, Sly? Give me a word. Led to a lot of...
Despair.
Yeah. Fuckery.
Yep.
Grief.
Anger.
Fuckery.
Anger.
That fight
Sadness.
was the first fight ever in 14 where I realized that griefing was a real thing.
What do you mean? Wait, I did that fight with you. What do you mean?
Well, after we did it with our group.
Okay.
Of course. But, like, ignorance is griefing sometimes, I think. And that's the fight that made me understand that. Because there was legitimately people who would go into Light Rampant and be like, I don't really know what to do, so I'm going to stand here and hope that it works. And then they wouldn't say anything. Yeah. That was the worst part. That's why I didn't pug in EAS, like, ever.
Yeah, Light Rampant.
You're smart. You're smart as fuck.
No, Sly, you know what, though? Think of all the life experience you've taken out of this. Don't give me that look.
I will hurt you.
Sly, if it means I get to see you, I'm okay with it. Last time I got
But
to
all
see
things
you
considered,
was
I thought E8S was a great fight.
Yeah, I think a lot of people misconstrue the way people did or handled it, especially in Pugs, versus the actual quality of the fight.
Yep.
I am
Also,
of the opinion it's high quality.
Yeah, I liked this. Maybe an interesting take, but I liked how they put the hardest mechanic like near the beginning.
I've always been 50-50 on that. Because
Same.
yeah, because it's like, I'm like, oh, thank God we're through that. But no, so here's the reason why I kind of like it, but then I don't like when people say, okay, we beat that, we win. Because if I had a fucking nickel for every mechanic people fucked up after Light Rampant, bro, the fucking mirrors right after Light Rampant were just as much as a disaster as Light Rampant most of the fucking time, and people are like, no, we're good, we made it past Light Rampant.
Light Rampant was the IQ check of the fight, I think, is the best way you can put it.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Just
and then you get to ads, and then just people just lose their shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's literally, oh, we made it past Light Rampant. That's the bullshit part. And then it's like, fuck up the mirrors, fuck up the ads, fuck up the knockback mirrors. People can't look away from the fucking glare mirrors. They end up petrified. Fucking 3 people every time. And I'm like, what are you doing? Just stop. Just fucking stop. And then people would still, oh, Isolate's easy, Light Rampant. Then why the fuck did we die 6 times? What's going on? I don't disagree that it's the easy Light Rampant, but don't then die a bunch. Like, you know, just and then Worms. I don't know. Everyone just fucking died to every mechanic. Every mechanic had its quips, had its like downsides. The only reason why Light Rampant was such a problem is because the strategies that the difference in strategy people wanted to employ.
Oh my god, you remember our first strategy?
Where we ran in circles?
The 360 around the orbs?
I was ranged, so I didn't mind, but you know.
We ran to every person who got tethered to an orb ran to the orb, did a 360 spin around it to keep it in place. The cones would go out, and then you'd go to the towers.
Yep.
It worked! And I came up with that idea, by the way. It was so bad, but it worked. It was hilarious. You had to literally check to make sure you're doing a clockwise spin around your circle instead of counterclockwise. Otherwise, you'd hit one of the cones. It was awesome.
I hate how dumb and simple that sounds, yet absolutely works in practice and on paper.
Works in practice, works in our clear too.
Yep, I think our clear mod, we did that.
Yep, we sure did. I think we eventually made it to only East and West did it. I think we did make North and South run through at some point.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was...
Memes.
Yeah, it was memes. Yeah.
At least you admit it.
Well, because here's the thing.
It was so bad.
But here's the thing. I've been doing guides. I've been doing guides on and off for like a long time. And when obviously the biggest topic here is Ilya, Ayatori, you know, Sharingan, whatever all the different names. But Ilya is always the one that gets the flack for that week 1 strategy. And I hate how much people shit on the person versus this, because I've dealt with this for years. People learning a strat and refusing to learning something else is always more of a problem than the strat that came before the good strat. Because I had this discussion, I made a video about it recently, where people just want to learn how to win. They don't actually want to learn how to do the fight.
Right. I was just going to touch on that.
And that was really the biggest thing that what led to Ilya, because Ilya's made perfect sense. It followed all the rules. It was doable. Yeah, the melees would lose a fucking GCD or 2 while they were doing it. Okay, but would that make or break the end of the fight? Theoretically not. But it didn't stop people from fucking it up constantly. Still, you know, high risk. So then better strats came out later. I've done
one of
Ayatori and Sharingan,
biggest problems with going from static to PF was I learned this after going into PF so many times was I never was learning the mechanics. I was learning the strategy. And so I'd learn, okay, this happened to me. I need to stand right here, but I don't know why. But I'm going to stand here and I'm going to survive and everyone else is going to live. And so once I started to actually like understand everybody else's role in the mechanic and why things were happening and what happens to who, that's when you can get comfortable with switching up your strategy, I think. But a lot of people in PF just don't want to go through the trouble of that. So
It's like, I beat it.
yeah, it's like if I do, my role only gets this mechanic, so I'm going to stand here, and I don't know why, but everyone lives.
Yeah, pretty much. And because of that, Ilya caught Mad Flack. Just because he's like, oh, this worked. He didn't even use, it's just like us with, we'll get to this in a second too. He didn't use his strat after like a couple of weeks. He's like, yeah, I moved on to the better stuff, of course.
I.e. Happy Brambles.
Talk about that. Well, listen. Anyway, but it's the thing. It's like a lot of the people who end up making early strats or end up adopting a certain thing. The people who go about trying to think about how to beat mechanics, they end up just doing different things after a few weeks. But people don't care if they're doing different things. They've beaten it already. They've learned. They're good. And that was a huge problem in E8, more so than anything. And that's what led to it, I think, getting the stigma that it was either a bad fight or it wasn't fun. And it's because we made it not fun as people. Just being people and being just unbudging.
Trying to clear the fight. No.
Yeah, that's it. And that's great. If it works for some people, that's great. It gets them through. But, man, in Party Finder, you really probably need to know more than one way to do it.
Yeah.
Or just never join another party that's doing it a different way. You know, if you see, doing this.
Be able to adapt and be flexible.
Just don't join. The worst is that people would join them and then complain and ask if can we do other things. That's like, you read it. Like, it said that what they...
No, they didn't. No, the fuck they didn't.
Yeah, you're right. Although I can say, I will say, Sly, listen. Sometimes you just see the open slot. You know that you don't have time to read. And you just got to join. And then you can ask afterwards. I think they need to make it...
that makes sense too. But the minute I join... I'm asking, sorry, not even accidental. It's just, sorry, joined too quick, didn't see the whole thing. How are you doing this strat? How are you doing this strat?
Can I opt for /p message to be whatever the party finder or /pf message they added as command to put it into party chat after so you can read it like you can with FC message or whatever? But can we please get that as a command so I can join these things and read later? And just as long as I see it.
Here's another tangent that isn't related to what we were supposed to be talking about, but macros are wonderful, IMO.
Whoops.
And I don't care what anybody says.
Can I tell you what happened? Do you know what happened? Do you know what happened in one of my Emerald Weapon pugs, Whoops?
What happened?
Keonu was in there.
Yep.
Put a macro.
Shout to the homie.
Party chat.
Yep.
He has wonderful looking macros. A lot of them he either takes from JP, makes them himself. They're beautiful. I saw it and I was like, oh my God, I love it. I wish we did this more.
So easy.
The tank called the H1 position because he didn't get it. And I wanted to die so bad in that moment.
Oh no.
He's like, oh yeah, I'll take H1. And it's like, that's
not how it works.
That's not why that's not the point of the macro, sir.
Dude. When I actually started doing stuff on my own in Duty Finder on JP on Tonberry even, you join an Emerald Weapon farm party, and nobody says anything. Somebody just posts a macro, and everyone goes position, countdown, and then everyone just does it, and it's so nice. It's magic. Why can't we do that?
Meanwhile, on
because
NA,
we're NA.
No. On NA, here's it. If someone puts the one marker down, you need to get in the clock positions. Two fucking people stand on the same spot for 6 minutes and won't fucking budge.
And nobody says anything.
People are fucking divas. The reason people stand on 2 fucking spots is because first one person will absolutely fucking get there first, and it's okay, and that's fine. And then somebody will stand and what did you call it, Happy? Assert dominance. They would assert dominance until you fucking moved, or we just didn't do anything for about 8 minutes. I fucking hate people. I fucking hate divas. Yeah. They were just fucking divas.
Yep.
It's the same with a 1-2 marker. It's a 4-4 split, but there's 5 people on one side, and it's like,
bruh.
Mod check?
Y'all wanna move? Y'all motherfuckers gonna move?
Oh my God, that too. And then people are like, I'm always Southwest when I join Party Finders.
I'm always Southwest.
I'm always Southwest.
Yeah. Well, now you're not.
I'm like, okay. And I'll type this. I'm like, okay, I can be flexible. Can you? No, I'm sorry. I just can't do it. I can only do Southwest.
Yeah, that's it. They can literally always, you send them, like sometimes people get a different position and then they like mess up a poll and they go, oh shit, sorry. I'm not used to being there. It's fine though. Like, it's like, you get that. Like, that's reasonable.
No. It's the Southwest person who can only do Southwest that fucks up the most. It's not even the person, it's not even the fucking new person who's doing like shit on like a new position and they're used to the fight and they're not used to a single position. It's that one person who's in that Southwest position who can only do that position. They're the one fucking up the fight. Nah.
Yeah, but sometimes you get that person who's not, that one person who's like, they take the other, like they don't argue, whatever. They just take the other position. And they screw up because maybe they do normally, like they very rarely ever take that position.
I'd much rather have that. And then they go, oh, my bad. Now I know. And then you just pull it in and you do it. I'd much rather have that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is fucking with my brain, but I'll get it. I don't care if we wipe 3 times as long as they're not complaining about getting that position. They're just like, dude, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with me. I just keep fucking dying there. It's whatever. I'll get it, right? That doesn't happen most of the time. Most of the time, it's, can we just swap? Or even the party finder leader.
Fuck you. Nah, fuck you. You asked for that position. You made that bad fucking sleep. Nah, we ain't doing. No. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. We will fucking leave. I will turn this party around. We will get a new party. Fuck you.
I love when the party finder leader gets so sick of it, they just leave, disband, and then just immediately make another party finder. Like,
they just come
instantly, as if those same people aren't going to join. They're like, blacklist you, and you, and make another one. Got it. Normally, you just blacklist 1 or 2 people when that happens, and then you let the rest rejoin. That's fine. Oh, man.
Yeah.
The point is, learn the fight, not the strat.
Yes. Be flexible.
Don't be a diva.
Be kind.
Be good people, as what's his face
and
says.
Oh my gosh, the biggest tip I can get for pugging is just if you don't know what you're doing, just don't be afraid to ask. Like,
right.
If you're forced into a position where you're doing something you don't normally do in your other group, just be like, hey guys, like I don't know how to do this. Could somebody teach me, or just give me an explanation real fast? If somebody typed that in a PF I was in, I'd be like, absolutely, friend. Here's what you do. So quickly.
You're a good person.
Yeah.
Because some people will actually type that and nothing. No help. No, like, a little bit of passive aggressiveness, but more along the lines of no help. And like, it sucks because, again, we're trying to clear the same content, but at the same time, somebody is willingly asking for help.
PvP.
I'm glad to give.
The best form of PvP in Final Fantasy XIV is the party finder.
Is the part where you don't even fight each other.
No, you're fighting each other just with your words. Your keyboards and your words. That's it.
What's one of the best situations I've ever had? Ooh. Like I think we were at the time we were kind of learning E11. This was like in the beginning of Pug Prog. And then one dude is like, no, don't say anything. Don't do any call outs. I want to see who doesn't know it. For fucking what? We're trying to clear the same goddamn content. Are you fucking serious? I left that party so goddamn quick.
This is a test.
Did you pass? Oh, you left. Okay, so you didn't pass the test.
I left.
Okay, just making.
No. I knew, but it's like people wiped, and then he was like, "You know what? I'm good. I'm good too. I never want to see you again."
Bye.
God.
Oh God. Yeah. Anyway, so the final tier of Shadowbringers. It's hard to even talk about it after that. That tier, you can tell how much that tier of fights exemplifies. That's the
PF segment.
Yeah, that's the part. It's crazy how much more that is, because while there are some different strats in this one, even with, obviously there's different strats for 9, 10, 11, not really. I think there's like a couple of like slight differences. Like sometimes people send like the tank thing north, or like the DPS or the red, one of the tethers goes north, one goes south. It's like a couple things. Maybe uptime strat for that like one part towards the end. But not too much there. And 12 too. I'd say that while there's a couple different ways, most people are pretty familiar with 12 to get through with a couple of alliance strats and a couple of whatnot. E9 though, of course. Whoops. Yeah. That's another.
Luckily, you can die. What was it? 39 times or something like that.
Yeah, 30. Yeah. We died. Sorry, Sly. We died. I think it was 39 times week 2.
Yeah, our second and third weeks of doing E9 were so bad because we had no practice in it. We didn't understand how the fight completely worked yet, so we died so many times, but we still cleared every week. It's great.
Yeah, we would say, and by the way, the 39 deaths, that was a one shot that week.
Yup.
That was a first pull, and we did it, kind of thing. Yeah, because we.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's one word for it. Yeah, we didn't
Forgive it.
That was. I've never had a more dreadful morning, Whoops, than
Really
us going to bed after day 1, and then waking up to raid day 2 and seeing 47,000 views on our clear VOD. I'm like, oh no.
Oh no. It's gonna happen.
I didn't do that.
To this day, on Aether, if I open up PF, it's happy brambles, happy brambles, happy brambles.
We didn't. I didn't even come up with that. All I determined was that we needed to stack the tanks healers on one side and
the
DPS
video
on the other. Yeah, I uploaded a VOD of us killing it, and that was it. It was done from there. I think it was Pharaoh who came up with the positions that we
Pharaoh's
had.
idea. Yep.
Yeah. And that was it. It was for weeks. I got tells from people like, "You're a cancer to society because of things."
God.
I got a lot of messages about that. It was bad. Yeah, I had one person tell me in game they wished I died before like Shadowbringers came out or something, so I couldn't have made that strat.
Jesus.
It was bad. That's the amount of yeah. Sly's not surprised in any way whatsoever. Not in.
We're like this as humans. That's the thing. We are like this in a goddamn video game as humans. Like I feel like every time there's a time limit. There's a time limit on your fun in PF. There is a time limit from when the content gets released and you actually, you're learning. You're actually learning. There's no guide out or anything. You have to learn. You're forced to learn. And then World First clears. There's a video. Happy Brambles.
We weren't World First.
Myth Brambles.
Dude, didn't we do what didn't we do like Rin, like a combination of like Rin's strategy and like somebody else's Whoops? What was it? Who's did we end up using after we stopped using our week 1? Was it Rin?
I think we used the Rin ones, yeah.
Is Rin the one where it's the 2-4 groups, like in the diagonals, and then you do the open side?
You know what? Actually, Zeph came up with that, and then we figured out that another group had done that already.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Zeph came up with that diamond strategy, and then
squares.
We were like, "Oh, this is much better." Then people were like, "Oh yeah, that's."
We didn't like it day 1. We didn't like it at all. The first day we did it. The second day went a lot better. After the second day, we're like, "This is amazing." What are we talking?
Once we realized that we could just put the party on the open side.
That was the big thing, was putting the party. We also didn't we have like the tanks stack theirs or something also to give like to give Pharaoh room to like slide cast in for uptime?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
Oh, Rin strat is the X shape. Okay. Yeah, so this was like squares. Yeah,
there's a it doesn't really matter what orientation you put them in, but if you put them in the opposite corners like that, it works.
Question for both of you. First week, or let's say 2 weeks of this, do you care more about the strat? Do you care more about clearing and getting your gear?
Depends on the fight.
Me personally, I don't care what happens. I don't care if I'm dead on the floor for 5 minutes. If we clear the fight, I'm happy.
You will talk about your logs afterwards, though, but you'll just accept
when it comes to week 1. That was the caveat.
When
it comes to week 1,
he said 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
First week, second week.
The second week, I think, is you clean it up a little bit because you're not like world racing anymore, which is my first, priority when it comes to week 1. That's just what I've come to learn. And then week 2, I think it's cleaning it up and getting it to a point where we can comfortably re-clear it for weeks to come.
With decent parses.
With decent parses, sure. Why not? But
the reason
I don't think parsing's a big deal until BIS anyways.
Yeah.
So.
True. Exactly. So the reason I say this is I give you after 2 weeks. That third week, you can say, hey, this fucking strat sucks. I don't want to do this. And go on about your life. And I'll shake your hand, give you a beer, dap you up, go on about your business. I don't give a fuck. These first 2 weeks, don't say shit about a strat. We're just trying to clear. We are rolling on the same pieces of goddamn gear, so don't give me strat sucks. Happy Brambles suck. Like, okay, yes, but have we optimized?
Yes.
Have we fucking optimized?
Yeah. No, you're speaking
in?
truth right now.
2 weeks in, have we fucking optimized these strats? No, shut the fuck up. No strat sucks. After that, yeah, sure. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it in chat. Like, Happy Bramble suck. Go ahead and say it. Go ahead and tell him to his face. I don't give a fuck. It's after 2 weeks. It's been like ages. I don't give a fuck.
Till like a month in, at least, right?
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I'd say we didn't do squares until like week 3 or 4. We definitely stuck with the normal one for quite some time.
Bronchitis, thank you. Like, again, you could say it now. It is okay. But the first 2 weeks of that goddamn fight, he says it now. But the first 2 weeks of that goddamn fight, I don't want to hear a goddamn word.
Speaking of which,
sucks.
Here's another thing to talk about. I hate how people still use week 1 strats on E12.
Which Titan?
Specifically for basic relativity.
Oh yeah, you mean so like people because you want to do the ices out first, I'd assume, instead of the where they go to the. Which way are you talking about? Yeah, there's like 3 ways I know.
So the TPS one is the one that PF uses a lot.
Yeah,
from what I've seen.
That's the one we use.
That's the one where the ices take the first towers, which can pull melees off the boss.
Oh yeah. So you prefer what we did?
I don't mind if we have to do that, but like, why would you when you could just have full uptime?
Again, I can accept this now. Yeah. I can accept this now. See, I can take that. We can take that. Strat and criticism for the strat now. I mean, first 2 weeks, don't fucking think about it. Shut the fuck up. No.
Yep.
Man, that was a great 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was fun.
The first 2 weeks of any raid tier are always the best 2 weeks. After that, it's NA.
Yeah. And chat brings up that TPS had triple range, which is why they did that. It didn't really care. Yeah. And a ninja, who is a semi-ranged when they want to be. So, it's... That, you know what, though? I will say, barring that experience aside, while I think I like the second tier overall the best, I think this was probably the best actual tier, if that makes sense.
Third tier was my favorite.
Yeah.
Because
I think really what nails it for me is the third fight. Third fight is Voidwalker 2.0. You mentioned it earlier. It's largely about learning the cycles. There's a pace to it that's quite satisfying, though, that keeps me a little on edge compared to Leviathan and Idol, where Idol is both the name of the boss and what I feel like I am 99% of it. So, and that really did the trick for me. But also even Shadowkeeper. Shadowkeeper has a bunch of hilarious outcomes when people don't agree on what relative means.
Yeah.
Why are you on top of me? Why are we in the same place? What are you doing? Okay. Yeah.
Shadowkeeper's fun.
Can be.
It's funny.
Shadowkeeper's fun, but only if you cut out the wall orbs part.
The wall orbs is really fun. And not to mention, even when people get the wall, it's great when people finally get it, but then like there's like a slight distance problem with like somebody being a little too close or a little too far, and then a tank orb still kills people, and a tank takes multiple orbs. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I was like, why the fuck am I getting hit by this tank orb? Oh.
That's why.
At least because that's way more depressing than when you go to do the knockback one and you see the one person that didn't knockback resist get flung out into
they take an orb by themselves.
Yeah, and it's like I don't have any issue with that at all.
Sure, man. Cool.
It's way worse when you see 4 people in 1 stack and you're in the 2 stack and you're like,
Uh-oh.
And then it happens every pull and every player's still like, come on now. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh. Anyway.
Something I really appreciated about the 3rd tier, we talked about this while we were actually doing it, Happy, as the boss size rings were dramatically increased in size.
Yeah. And it's really depressing when you do other things that it isn't like that.
Yeah.
Because it is so convenient. It's just, they're so much bigger than they need to be. And I think, honestly, I wonder how much of that is part of a design they like with the True North bosses. Because I actually think the True North bosses sometimes have hitboxes that are too small. Even though they're all on one side of the arena, I feel like sometimes they really expect you to go way too far away from the boss for some mechanics before they're optimized.
Yeah.
But this kind of feels like that, but movable, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So every mechanic still feels like an uptime strat doesn't have to be different from an optimal strat. Because some people mix and match the two. Optimal can mean like easiest to clear sometimes, or intended, or whatever. And uptime can be riskier, like knockback mirrors on Shiva. That's uptime.
Yep.
Man, is that not safe to do? And it became the standard way too quickly.
Yeah. I just it's the small things, like when you're doing the Titan bombs in phase 1 of E12, like when you're a melee and you're taking your whatever marker you got, you can still be hitting the boss if you're perfectly max melee and not mess anything up. Just things like that wouldn't be possible in the other tiers, I think.
Yeah.
With how small the rings were.
Yeah, and it worked out really well. It's something that I hope they continue. Unfortunately, it was something that wasn't present even going into Delubrum Savage. The hitboxes were kind of back to being normal size. And it was disappointing, definitely, to some degree, I feel.
Oh.
As much
I still haven't gone in there on Savage.
Well, now you know that you better know where you're going.
Yeah.
The last boss is okay with it, but I think the 3rd boss is a big offender of my hitbox is too small, in particular.
Speaking
Second
of
boss
which,
kind of too.
If there's any Aether groups that would, mind taking me in.
Hey, by end of May, it's going to be a lot easier to pug.
Okay.
It's already easier to pug now, but it's going to be even easier end of May, as long as you've actually been keeping up with your resistance rank. What resistance rank are you? Whoops.
13?
You might want to get to 15.
Okay.
And then to 25 after that.
25? It goes that high?
It will, and by the end of May, it will.
What in the goddamn?
It's quick. You'll be fine. Everything. It's easier now. Trust me, you'll be all right.
Well, I got plenty of time, I guess, because I just finished getting my Amaro mount like last week. So
you probably should have done it when you still needed the Amaro, because you could have been leveling while getting your resistance rank.
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Oh, that's what.
I was rank 8. Now I'm 13.
Okay. You also might want to do Delibrum normal if you haven't yet.
I did.
Okay.
I did. Yeah.
All right. Good. Yeah, that's rough. And yeah, that's kind of the one thing that I don't really know how we approach talking about here is Delubrum Savage, because it really isn't anything formulaic that we can judge based on other raid tiers. The only other thing to compare it to is Baldessian, which both of these are still not. They're so unusual that where they fit in the raid conversation is actually really tough to figure out.
I think they're really cool.
They are. I love them. It's my favorite raid. Baldessian was one of my favorite experiences of Stormblood. And it wasn't even like a hyper difficult, it wasn't an ultimate, it wasn't a savage, it was like a 24-man where you had to figure out how to not get murdered by Absolute Virtue or kicked out by Ozma.
Mm-hmm.
It still wasn't that bad. This is a lot more like, extreme savage-ish in some territories.
More organized too.
A lot more organized, a lot more exacting. The amount of things you need to bring and the coordination that's required there. Man, I hope they continue. All I'll say about that is I hope they continue to do them. I hope it's successful enough, because we would question that with BA if it even was active enough. Now it is. BA's still active. You can still do BA with with like a Discord group with relative ease, and hopefully Delubrum will go down that path after rank 25. Fingers crossed.
So I haven't done Baldecian or this, but how carryable do you think it is?
Baldecian is very carryable.
How many people do you think you can put into a Delubrum Savage group though, and just like pull them through, like not explaining anything?
Are you sure you want to do that though?
I'm not saying I want to, but I'm just saying like, is that even possible, or is it to the point where 48 people need to study like everything about what they need to do?
If you are not one of the 48 who knows, they'll know very quickly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because resurrections are not guaranteed in there unless you sacrifice a player.
Mm-hmm.
You stick out like a sore thumb.
You stick out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. You will die on the third boss. They might as well not even resurrect you during the third boss if you don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. You're actually more of a liability alive than you are dead.
Yep.
It's a waste of arises, quite frankly, to have to do it.
Gotcha.
And so I'd say, as long as they're not all in the same alliance, I'd say 6 to 8 people is probably, like, right now, reliably carryable. More skilled people could probably carry more people.
Right.
So you're saying you need 40 people at least to know what the fuck they're doing.
Here's the thing. Specifically, we're talking, because no, you don't need 4. I think people have already done it with 24 people, because you can do it with 24. You can enter with 24 now. So I'm not saying you need 40 people. I'm saying that in a full 48 man, that's probably what you could get away with. Adjust that if you're going to go with less than 48. If you have 24 people, I'm not going to lie, if you have 24 people, you probably can't carry anybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people did it with 24 before you could even enter with less than 48. They just had 24 people fucking leave.
I say that because sometimes it's hard to get 8 people to know what they're doing in a fight. So I imagine getting 48 people to know what they're doing is, I don't know. Are the mechanics easier? Are they like more broad? I've only seen clips.
I'd say they're like extreme trial level for the most part.
Oh, okay.
So they're harder than Baldecian's mechanics. That's for sure. It's and also again you need very specific actions. You need like reflects at certain parts. You need like X amount of people casting reflect on themselves or dispelling certain things. And then do you have the 1v1 buff or do you not? Because you don't need it. It's not mandatory. But the less people you have, the better off you'll be. So carryable, but don't want to have to. And Baldecian, the funny thing is with Baldecian, carrying, the last boss kicks you out if you're dead at regular intervals. It'll eject you from the instance. So,
wow.
Yeah. It was pretty funny when we didn't know that. And
so could you like clear the fight and people got kicked out, wouldn't get rewards?
Mm-hmm. In fact, so Fold was in our world first for that. Fold got ejected 2.5 seconds. He was still in the room. He was doing the ejection animation. Still in the room. And he didn't get credit.
Wow. That blows.
Yeah. So
how long does it take for the whole thing, by the way? Is it a couple hours?
Baldecian? Or
for
Delubrum? I mean, now that people have done it a bunch, probably an hour. It was definitely more than an hour right when it first came out, but people have gotten a lot better at it. But here's the thing. Realistically, if you're progging it, you're going to be in and out. Like, the first boss is going to wipe you constantly. If you're, like, with a bunch of people progging, you'll be in and out dozens and dozens of times.
I think I'm going to try to study up and then get into a group that's doing re-clears at some point down the road, if possible.
There's a decent number of prog groups, depending on the data center. Like, you can normally find prog nights, re-clear nights, a lot more easily now. Yeah. I beat Baldecian. Okay. The Baldecian Discord do the same thing.
I'd rather do it with a lot of people that don't know what they're doing because that's fun. But
yeah. Well, no. The prog parties are not all fresh. There's people to lead, obviously, but they're done with the expectation. Yeah, the same thing is for Baldecian. There's learning. There's meme runs in Baldecian where it's like healer only and stuff like that. So that's I would highly recommend it. It's a very different rating experience. And something I think they need to do if they want to branch out and do other forms of content, they really need to create, I call it parallel progression. people always talk vertical or horizontal. This is parallel because it's completely along.
Just a separate area.
Yeah, it's just completely different from everything else. It's not item level driven. It's not level at all driven. It's happening, and there's things that make it easier, and there's things to learn. But whether or not you have the same level of experience in Savage or Extreme is really just going to be how well you understand the game. And
it's, they're not putting things that you need to like do the actual like ultimates or Savage fights from there. So it's not like it's required. It's just cosmetic rewards, right?
It gives you, the gear
Mounts
is, so there's the Cerberus mount, there's the Save the Princess minion, which is worth like 8k gil now, because everyone gets one every time you clear. I think there's a music sheet, and then there's the Diabol law gear, which also has haste on it, which then makes doing Save the Queen content easier. Like my GCD on Monk is 1.57.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it gets pretty nutty when you get into things with that. I think actually that's the biggest problem with DR Savage is its reward structure. It is very, very poor. It's got worse reward structure than Baldesion does. Baldesion has sellable items. This doesn't have anything that's of value other than the Save the Princess minion, which no one gives a shit about. So
I wish you could make money by raiding in this game.
You can just coach, right?
That's called a callback, ladies and gentlemen. Happy end the podcast, quick.
We're almost at that time. we're getting pretty close to that one. All right. Well, I would have loved to have spent a little more time talking about this. I know you have nest re-clears in an hour, and you probably want a little bit of time before you get into that, because you also had Gordius earlier. So before we wrap up real quick, you're going through Gordius right now. You're doing it.
Yes.
7 people are blind.
Oh boy.
7 out of 8 blind.
Boy.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Twitch doesn't like blind. 7 out of 8 of you are doing mystery prog. All right.
Mystery prog. Fresh.
There you go. Fresh. Mystery. There you go.
Unguided.
There you go. And then Pharaoh is Pharaoh's the one who knows, right?
Yeah, he's the one whose Pepe laugh muted mic just giggling
I've heard
at us
his
the whole
Pepe
time.
laugh before, so I know exactly what that sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
That's really more like the witch from Banjo-Kazooie, but that definitely.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. How has that been? Because that's I prod Gordius on content, so as did Sly.
My dumbass thought it would be a fun idea to do this, right? The unguided Heaven's Ward raids. I also was like, let's double down. I'm gonna heal for the first time ever. This is my first healing experience in content above normal. And it's I can't even say it's getting thrown in the deep end for learning. It's getting thrown in the deep end and then held underwater and shaken. It's real tough, but man, is it fun. They don't make them like they used to. I know what they mean now when they say that. They're so fun.
You have a fucked up idea of fun.
Well, to be fair, A3 is not nearly as much torture now as it used to be, yeah.
I mean, it's obviously not as hard. We're taking off accessories, and there's some rules where, like, if we mess something up, we have to wipe. For example, if we touch one of the bubbles in A3, we all wipe.
Yeah, that's not lethal anymore, Sly. It does like $2,000 damage-wise.
Yeah. And there's other rules that we haven't found yet, but there's like, if we cheese a mechanic, Pharaoh will stop it, and then we have to wipe, and we can't do that anymore. We can't healer LB3 or tank LB3 for repeated like prog points. We can do it every once in a while, but like if we're relying on it, we can't do it.
It sounds like FF Log's challenges.
It's boot camp for sure. We're trying to keep the experience as close to as it was on release as possible without it being impossible.
Man, every time I talk about A3, there's a GIF that I haven't been able to find in years of a Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. I believe I remember who the Dark Knight was. They were in Elysium, and they gap closed after a knockback during the hand phase, and the hand, without even doing the auto attack animation, killed him in one hit with a crit auto. and that's it from full HP. And so he does the lunge, he does the front flip in, falls over dead. I haven't been able to find it, and I just haven't been able to find it, and I hate that I can't find it because it's one of the best examples of what old A3 was like. One bad auto attack and the whole thing was over.
Somebody mentioned not using certain jobs. We are doing that, except for Pharaoh. He's playing Samurai.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna make enough of a difference to really make or break the experience. Yeah, I look back on Gordius with one fond memory, and even that fond memory is super tainted because A1 and A2 are kind of whatever. A2 is okay to prog, but like I was in the Gobwalker for some of it, and so I don't. Yeah, Sly is also historically not a fan of the Gobwalker. I think he would.
I could say all 7 of us hated A2S.
Thank fucking God.
It wasn't fun.
It was fun. It was fun week 1, way back when. Only because it's so I like to compare it a lot. Turn 4 was fun week 1, all the way going back to Coil. Turn 4 was a pretty good experience when there's a lot of pressure on killing ads in time and what ads you'll still have alive going into another phase and where the tanks will be and the Gobwalker management, which for us was a scholar for most of the waves. I took over for the last 2 waves, essentially. There was a lot to do because we essentially had to learn to solo heal the fight is what ended up happening during Prague. And it led to it being a decent bit interesting. With any amount of gear, it became the worst thing to have to do every week. It was like, please just get me the fuck through this. There's nothing I don't want to do this ever. Please just kill me. Well, actually you die. I don't want to die. I want loot. So that was it. A3 though is both the best and worst experience I've ever had in this game.
I bet, man, it was hard.
Yeah, we were world 6th for that. We beat it before you could get tombstone weapons. That was our goal, was to beat it before tombstone weapons were purchasable. The Saturday before, we would have been world 3rd if we had killed it that day. The boss was at such a low value of health, ACT wouldn't tell us the number anymore. And 2 people died to 1 mechanic, and we wiped.
Oh, no.
And we didn't clear it until an hour before maintenance on Monday. And that was by far the worst 2 days of my life in this game. I've never I just remember our Dragoon literally saying, fuck you guys, I'm leaving, like that Saturday, like after that wipe happened. And then we didn't go back in for another hour because he just had to.
I can see how it'd be rage inducing. I don't want to say it was harder. It was just, you had to pay more attention. I think you had to be more focused because a lot of shit's just untelegraphed, and healing is so much harder back then than it was now.
Doesn't help that a lot of the mechanics ask people to be in bumfuck nowhere.
Yeah, that's especially why I noted earlier that the arenas are so big back in those raids.
Yep.
It feels like, because everybody's across the goddamn Narnia.
Yeah. And man, would I love to talk about A4, but I will refrain because...
You can talk about up to Nisi.
That's not the part I want to talk about.
You want to know what my strategy was this morning? Because we were like, why is the boss only at 89%? We've destroyed 3 of the legs. What's going on? We're not going to have any more legs. And then I was like, wait a second, guys. You know the song forward and backward and forward and back? What if we need to do the 4 legs and then the hind legs to give it like a vuln stack so we can do enough damage to kill it? And we fucking tried that. That's where we're at, Happy.
So let me tell you, you're gonna wish it was that simple.
Man, I already do.
Yeah, I heard there was a pretty funny quarantine wipe today. People just all dead in quarantine.
Yes, we had 7 people dead in quarantine.
Jesus
How
Christ.
the fuck did you even stay alive long enough to get 7 people into quarantine?
Fuck if I know. It was awesome though.
Okay. Yeah. I'll at least tell you that after you get past this, however long that takes, one is one of the best raid tiers this game has ever produced will follow, even in its semi-nerfed state.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I am being told so many times, and it feels like a rite of passage, and I'm glad I'm not spoiled on it yet. So I'm glad I get to do it.
Yeah,
with 7 other people.
Yeah, that'll be a good time. I promise you, there's a prize at the end of this manipulator shithole that you haven't even. It's like you found the septic tank, but you think it has gold in it right now, and you don't realize that it's full of shit, and that's where you're going to be at pretty soon.
Nice.
Manipulator is one giant septic tank of garbage and shit. So
it's also teaching me so much more about tanking and healing, which I think you knew this, but like even in 5.2, like I only knew how to play Dragoon. Like
yeah,
that's it.
If I didn't know before then, I would have known after raiding with the team.
Yeah,
because I've been the DPS who never plays healer before, like going into a raid tier and just being like, I don't fucking understand.
They'd be like, I need a fucking ED sucker deployed fucking Adlo, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you saying, bro? Who cares?
I've been that guy, so I know what it sounds like to be the person who just doesn't know.
Yeah.
And then when you are the person who knows, you're like, oh.
Yeah, why are we dying?
I don't get it. You just need to heal there.
Yeah. So I'm getting it now. So I'm seeing all aspects of the game finally, which is great.
It's one of the healthiest things. By the way, also, if you're doing the Party Finder, try every role, because trust me,
do it.
Your experience will improve drastically if you see.
It's fun.
Yeah. You'll understand the value of things like Bloodbath, Mantra, Second Wind, and pretty much anything that can help someone who's not you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I had Keo thank me one week for using Bloodbath on cooldown. He's like, thank you. He like looked at his ACT log. He's like, thank you.
Yes.
Please. It's like you have no idea. That's like a Tetra that's saved somewhere.
I always thought it was a joke when people would be like, get in the bubble. It's like, no, you don't really need me in there. But like, yes, we really need you in there. Oh my god, please get in the fucking bubble.
Yeah. That's Asylum Soils, pretty much. Especially if it's soil. If they're not in the soil, they're really a dickhead. That's like extra dickish. Okay, well, I'd love to stay in chat, gentlemen, but there's some nest clears that need doing, some re-clears. Oh no, you're on E12 today, aren't you? For nest?
I think we're skipping to 11 and then doing that and then 12.
12, okay, yeah. Okay, well with that...
We're on advance, so hopefully today.
So you've won. Smile.
Yeah. Hopefully.
That was another callback to the Light Rampant joke.
The podcast.
Okay. So thanks for joining us. Whoops, it was a good conversation. It was good having you on.
Thanks for having me on. It was really fun. Let me know if you ever want me back. Maybe. Okay. I'm down.
Yeah. Okay. We definitely will. We try to bring a few different people on. We have a lot of repeat guests. So it's good to have somebody we haven't had on before. You know, it's a good time.
Yeah.
Good conversation. And you're easy to set up for because you just give me a picture. I love that. That's the best kind of setup for State of the Realm.
Yes, sir.
Even though I was kind of looking forward to the hand cam a little bit.
Yeah, he gave us the option of hand cam, cat cam, or picture, and then when I named picture as the third option, he went, "Oh, let's just do that." And now everyone's like, "But we could have had hands."
Yeah, or my cat.
No, they wanted hands. They definitely wanted hands. Okay, on that note, we're going to move on. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Before we do our sign-offs, thanks again to our sponsors, Steel Series, and of course, our sponsors over on Patreon, our Patrons of Darkness, Khuja Cross on Jenova, and Kurenai Oni, who have gone above and beyond on the platform. Thank you to all of them, because this show is a mess most of the time, so the fact that they're even there, it blows my fucking mind. This show is an absolute fucking mess. But you know what? New expansion, maybe new time to upgrade everything, including show and thanks. Anyway, Whoops, thanks again for joining us. Why don't you tell them where they can find you at, what you're doing, what you're up to, all that good stuff.
I'm raiding like 30 hours a week on twitch.tv/whoops. Just tune in sometime. I'll probably be live.
You doing anything else?
Occasionally.
Do you want to talk
I
about
play other
those
stuff.
things?
Not really. Not really, man. My life is Final Fantasy at the moment. And if I talk about the funny Arrow game, then they're going to come to your channel and they'll harass you about it too.
DDR?
No.
Oh.
We don't speak of the accursed game right now.
Okay, well now I'm gonna look it up. So maybe I'll want
Don't look at my YouTube.
I'm looking at your. I'm going there right now.
Oh, now I'm looking at the YouTube.
That's absolutely. Don't tell me not to stand on the grass.
Happy they're gonna get you too.
But what if I want them to get me?
You don't.
You don't know that. Pantsless rating, rhythm game veteran. Oh, actually, I know this game. My girlfriend sent me this, like a video of this game.
He's gone, chat.
I mean, I play DDR competitively, so I always take to rhythm games. I don't anymore. So.
Do a Friday Night Funkin' stream.
Oh, funk. Okay, that's all right. We funkin'. That's not a good name for a game. That's a little too close to something that's far worse. Okay. Well, I'm gonna watch that, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So yeah. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Sly, what are you up to? Are you funkin'? Because I think you are.
Muted.
That's not funky.
Thank you. That's not funky. I'm still watching this video. God damn it. Whoops.
Sorry, man.
But yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. You can find me on Twitter at SlyTheFox. I will be funkin' tomorrow night because it is first Saturday. So the FC house on Primal will be open on Behemoth for Station WSOY first Saturday. Other than that, yeah, just been doing title update 2.0 on Monster Hunter, and apparently Mario Party got an update, and so
Sure
people are
did.
asking me, Sly, when are we killing each other? Soon. I have the game. I am ready. Just know we will not be friends if we play that game. After we'll be cool.
Shit.
During the game, we are not friends. We are enemies. You willingly came into this murder game. There is no friendship in Mario Party. Just know this. Thank
Facts.
you for your time.
Don't forget to
Happy
buy a
working.
Mura plushie.
You know what's
Happy
fun?
where can they find you? What are you doing?
Before I say that, Whoops, you know what was funny? I kind of had a feeling I knew what the answer was gonna be, because when I go to YouTube and type Whoops, the first thing that fills in is FNF.
Yeah.
Yeah. These videos are fucking huge.
Yeah, and I wish Final Fantasy videos were that big. Because you know what the problem is I play that game for an hour a week. That happens, and then I stream for 40 hours a week playing Final Fantasy the entire week.
Bro, I just like rhythm. I wish I was into rhythm games as much as I used to be. I used to be competitive. I used to play competitively.
Wait, man, let me
go
know.
to tournaments.
If you want to get into any of them, man, let me know. I'm down. I'll play.
I bought the DJ Max Steam game like a month ago, and I just didn't make.
Did I
time
ever
for
tell
it.
you
What?
the reason Pharaoh invited me to the Static wasn't because of my Final Fantasy gameplay.
Okay.
He invited me because I was good at Beat Saber. And
That
he said it
translates.
takes dedication to grind a game and learn and stuff. There's some better explanation, but that was the reason.
Worked out.
Yeah.
Always makes me want to do it. We'll see. I got a lot of stuff on my plate, quite literally, because I've been cooking. Anyway, that's where.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
your Twitter food pictures are so good.
I'm sorry. That's what I've been up to. I'm Mr. Happy. I've YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram. My Instagram is pretty active right now because I've been posting a lot of food. I had somebody ask, "Did you quit 14 and start cooking?" And I was like, "No, I just posting pictures on my Instagram of cooking. That's all I'm
Oh
doing.
my God, there's a did Haps quit something meme now. What the fuck?
Yeah, Sly's very familiar with that one. He plays Shin Megami Tensei for 3-4 days, Monster Hunter 3-4 days. I was like, did you quit? Dude, I could be done playing 14 like 10 minutes before I start playing a different game. So like, hey, did you quit 14? Be like, listen, they weren't here. I get it. They weren't here for the last 4 or 5 hours. So
Classic.
yeah, classic. That's it. I'm sure you play that game for an hour and then people go, oh, did you quit 14? So, Zeph gets it all the time. Yeah, I see Zeph get it all the time.
Okay.
So that's what I'm up to right now. A lot of cooking. That's been my stress relief hobby. And we got FanFest 2 weeks to the day of recording this on Friday. I think it's going to be a fun time, as people have no doubt noticed on the website. It has been revealed that some of us are participating in a little game show thing that I won't go into detail about. But man, I sure do love looking dumb in 2 places instead of 1. Yeah. Oh, don't somebody gonna smile and laugh at that, Sly. Now all of a sudden you're Mr. Genius over here. All right.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
I can't wait. It's gonna be a good time. All right. With that though, thanks for joining. And we'll go into a short post show so Whoops can get going. And we'll see you next week for whatever that show I decide to be. I have a few ideas, Sly. I'll bounce them off you after this.
Okay, doke.
Sounds good.
Okay, doke.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care. Have a great weekend.